as I said, it was never marketed in the West, but it was extremely popular in Japan. As far as gaming goes, it had an amazing sound system. It was, at that point, more clear and defined than a lot of other sound systems at the time. Its downfall, however, was that it had terribly poor color resolution. You see that a lot in the PC-98 games, as characters have to be one color because the system couldn't handle multiple colors and portraits. It had a humongous game library, and because it couldn't compete directly with consoles, this was what opened up the door to a lot of alternative games. PC-98 is primarily known for its hentai games, but it also has, hentai games. If you look up PC-98, you should probably put Safe Search on if you're not an adult. But it also opened up a lot of shooters, dating sims. We should probably focus on shooters, mind you. Also, it was very easy for doujin groups to put out games for this system. Now, I guess a sad thing was that Touhou Project actually came about when the system was already beginning to decline and the sales of the system were going down. This definitely affected the older games. And because it's no longer sold, even in Japan, it's a discontinued system. Even Japanese use emulators for this. And I know anyone here who's played a PC-98 game was on an emulator.
Like the one you can see over there, NX86.
Please don't use emulators for anything other than PC-98 though. Now, these first 5 games, well, Zune was bleh. You want to add anything else before we move on?
Anyone here knows how to work the emulator? I could show a quick demonstration before we move on to other type of information. Who here would like to see a demonstration of how to set it up? Yeah?
Okay. Because it's terribly hard to run an emulator. But okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Humor us here.
Okay. So this one is the one I like using. I tried other ones and I deleted them automatically and I do not even remember their names. I did not like them at all. But this is the one that's mostly used in the Touhou community, NX86. So what you do is you basically load up the image of the game onto the hard drive. You just have to select it. You have all sorts of different configs, but those options are usually, you don't need to touch them. Unless you're trying to use a controller, it can be a bit useful to reset the buttons. And you just basically just get the image, and it will load up.
Now, I know I heard the comment earlier, Zunesoft. Oh, don't we love seeing Zunesoft at the beginning?
Yes.
Because back for the first 5 games, it was Amusement Makers and Zunesoft. Now, what is Amusement Makers? Pretty much it's an unofficial student group at Tokyo Denki University, and it's part of the Science and Engineering department. Pretty much this group, which is still active to this day, has many members who shift. Pretty much, students who come into the group. It's kind of like a club. And they use this, well, I suppose, title of Amusement Makers to publish their games. Like if you go on the Amusement Makers website, for instance, today, it's not the same people who were obviously working on games back then because they've grown up, they've kind of moved on from that group. Now, obviously Zune was a member back then before he split off and created Shanghai Alice. Also, it should be noted that when he left Amusement Makers and moved to Shanghai Alice, there's a 4-year period between those two, and that's also when he was most likely working at Taito. Alright. Now, these first 5 games, it's difficult to stress without numbers how underground they were. Now, they were first released at Comic Cat 52, Toho 1 and 2 back to back. They were like at the same booth. And it was about 30 were sold combined. So, not very successful. Pretty much Toho did not take off until Embodiment of the Scarlet Devil, though there was at least some popularity increase because the later of the PC-98 games had about, it's suspected 200 to 300. It's not known how many are still in existence.
So did I.
Hello.
Yeah.
So it's not known how many are in existence. They are very, very rare. They go for over 1,000 now. Oh, and for those who might not know what a PC-98 game looks like, they look like floppy disks. Pretty much floppy disks, and you just insert them into, yeah. I don't think I need to explain that. Also, interestingly enough, other than the first 5 games, there was also a 1 in 5 that was created, and there was only believed to ever be 2 in creation. So don't expect to ever see one, but all 5 games were published on one, not an actual PC-98 disc, but a proper like CD disc. Okay. Oh, and I'll just add one thing, which is PC-98 game production stopped in 2002. But you can try the demos for free. They're still up. Go ahead, Jess.
So, what makes the big difference in gameplay between PC-98 and Windows? There's a couple differences. It becomes apparent when you make the transition from like 5, 6, 7, you see the evolution. One thing that is annoying to those who are used to the Windows games is the lack of hitbox. You cannot, well, lack of visible hitbox, I mean. So you cannot see what your hitbox is, so you have to kind of get a visual repère, mark, to know exactly where it is. For example, for Reimu, it's on her back she has a ribbon. That's about where her hitbox is. Marisa's hair, where it ends, is about where the hitbox is. So that's the only thing you can base yourself off for that. So this is a huge difference in gameplay.
Though hitboxes were introduced in PCB, so you can include Embodiment of the Scarlet Devil in the first 5 with not having visible hitboxes.
Yeah. There's also less variety in bullet patterns in terms of color mostly. And there's a lot of bullets that have been lost to the PC-98. I'm referring to the famous Cheeto lasers that are MS Paint blotches that go. Those were kind of fun to dodge. I wish they'd be back.
No, let's not wish them back, please. I don't particularly want them back.
Sure, Cheeto lasers.
We didn't have enough lasers in 14. I really want more lasers. Yes, Jess.
Okay.
We curvy Cheeto lasers.
He wants curvy lasers.
Yeah, why not?
It'll be a while.
Those are fun to dodge.
Maybe for you.
Have to go find.
Another notable thing, if you play, especially on harder difficulties, most likely it's not the bullets that will come at you, but the enemies themselves tend to come down.
This is especially in dim green.
Yes, and also Story of Eastern Wonderland can be pretty bad at that. The licky ghosts will come down to try and lick you. Not cool.
Also, you should definitely, if you're bringing up how it gets more difficult in harder difficulties, timeout does not work very well for you in PC-98. Some of the bosses, you know which one everyone's thinking of.
Yes, in Lotus Land Story, the extra bosses don't time out what they have. They will have this intense timeout phase where all hell breaks loose. And you just pray and bomb. Yeah, it's almost impossible unless you're, I don't know, can slow time. Yeah.
I've seen it done, but they hacked the game to lower the frame rate to do it.
So basically, slowing time.
Yes, pretty much.
Another notable thing, this was also used in embodiment of Scarlet Devil, is the use of a rank system. Now there's no physical number to quantify this in-game, but basically the better you do and the harder the game will get for you. So some patterns that are randomized will have more bullets and they will be coming faster at you. The more you gain lives, the less you bomb, the less you die, the harder it gets.
So that might explain why Sin was shooting twice as many bullets as the other one.
Yeah, that too. Embodiments had that, and you can notice it in certain patterns. Sometimes you'll be playing and it's like, why is this harder than usual? Well, it's because your rank is higher than what you normally have at that point.